So here we go, 46 seconds to go before the start of race number 1 in the SailGP Season 3 finale.
Well, and Ainsley on board Great Britain there. He's late into the box. He's chasing the French boat down in the pre-start. Aggressive tactics from the British boat on the right-hand side of our screen, but it's Denmark and Canada pretty much only playing for a little race win themselves here. They're lined up well in a good position, and it's all about timing now with 24 seconds to go. Australia, Denmark and Canada are in a great position now, and Jimmy Spittle, he needs to perform on board that US boat. He's looking for his timing. France and Great Britain are out the back along with New Zealand. These big contenders are going to be disappointed. Watch for the timing in the middle of the line. How's your timing, Phil Robertson and Tom Slingsby on board Australia?
Tight at the top.
Line's clear there. Great start by Robertson. Great start by Seb Schneider on board the Swiss boat. And I think that inside line's going to see the Swiss lead us around Mark 1 here in San Francisco.
Tight racing at the top of the fleet, and there you see New Zealand, France, and Great Britain. They are in the back, 6 legs ahead. This race will go fast as the wind is up as they approach mark number 1. High speeds across the board.
Oh, the speculation in the weeks leading up to this, Todd. Would Ainsley on board Great Britain be aggressive with De La Pierre? Well, the question's answered. He's already rattled the cage, and can they chase their way back through the fleet now?
On board with the Australians.
Slingsby there, he's talking about being in trouble. He's on the outside of the wheel. That boundary's approaching quickly. He's not in control of his decision. He's closest to the San Francisco shore. He'll have to dive behind the other boats when he turns. And there you go, Seb on board the Swiss boat, first to turn away. And Australia are well out of the picture there. And in the background on the right-hand side, Great Britain first to turn away, along with the Australians. And he's in a big dark patch of water on board the British boat. Look at his speed increase at the top of the mast there.
Leg 2 of 6 here, race number 1. We've got 3 races for you today.
So when they next turn here, we're setting up for a turn on board Great Britain. They'll have the right of way once they complete this turn. Here they go. He's already showing us in 5th. He's going to come back at the pack. If he's close, he'll have the right of way. Jimmy Spittle matches his manoeuvre, and those 2 boats are the big gainers early on in this leg.
Live speeds here from the top 3 boats, 66 kilometers an hour from the Swiss team, equivalent to 40 miles per hour.
So it's Switzerland out in front, Australia, Denmark, USA, and Great Britain. Emirates GBR in 5th. Remember, they're locked in a battle with France for the 3rd and final position as the France have now moved up to 7th.
Right-hand side of the screen, the Spanish have fallen off the foils in that manoeuvre. That's opened the door for the French. They're going to have a clean run into gate 2. Ainsley on board the British boats in the pack. It's always harder when you've got boats surrounding you, less options, but the ruse. Look at Tom Slingsby on board Australia, defending champion. He's pushing so hard to take the lead as we approach gate 2, and New Zealand at the moment back in 8th place. They can't afford to spend the weekend there. Looks like the Australians might make it in 1. That would give them the lead here, Todd.
Only the top 3 teams on Sunday afternoon will battle it out for the $1 million. It's Australia now in 1st place. The 2-time reigning and defending champions, the first to gate number 2. And then the rest of the fleet, Stevie, opts for the other side.
Yeah, well, Tom Slingsby was saving manoeuvres. He split away. It was more simple for the Swiss. We're going to learn a lot about the race course in the next 1 minute. It's so tight there. Canada dive inside Ainsley, and all that good work. Well, he's back in the pack on board Great Britain, and New Zealand, they're making a move on the French. There's clearly the pressure showing. New Zealand, France and Great Britain, they're making mistakes early in the race here, and which side of the course is going to have more wind? Looks pretty good on board Australia. Those ladder lines on the course there show the Australians with a 150-metre lead already over the Swiss. Big gain potentially for Australia. That could be good news for New Zealand and France, who turned right. Great Britain, they're on the side of the course that at the moment seems to be losing.
On to leg number 3, we check in down on the water with Lisa Darmanin.
Well, first of all, it's pretty tricky to match race in these conditions because it's so different across the course. We saw the Spanish, they fell off the foils. They had a bad manoeuvre, but there's huge light spots out here. That's what we call holes. So the teams are really going to have to avoid the holes and find that pressure out here.
And Stevie, you notice right off the bat, everyone's sitting down low in the cockpit.
Yeah, well, that's Tom Slingsby pushing the rules. I think he's got to be sat on the side to fit with the rules there. It'll be interesting to know what he's thinking. He's trying to reduce the windage on board there. And we see now Great Britain and New Zealand, they're coming together on the left-hand side of our screen. New Zealand have to keep clear. That's really tight moment in the race there by Burling. Could be interesting to see what happens there, whether Ben Ainsley chooses to go to the umpires. And the French, they're right back with the Emirates Great Britain crew as well. It's great to see Australia out in front, but the action for this place in the final is taking place right in the pack as France are chasing down the British.
It's really important here to keep an eye on the speeds and the top of the masts of each of the boats. We're seeing quite a few of the numbers dropping below 30 kilometers an hour, which means the boats are touching down in these maneuvers, and that is critical if they want to stay ahead of the other teams.
Beautiful shot of Emirates GBR with the San Francisco skyline in the background. Remember, they are 1 point out of making it to the final. They need to beat France over these 5 races over the next 2 days. And look at this, France flying the hole, and I don't know if that's intentional.
No, that's a mistake, Todd. They've turned the boat. They were...
penalty Canada, relative France, port tack boat keeping clear.
Oh, that's obviously a tight manoeuvre that took place off our screen. It forced the French into a really bad turn. They're turning through the wind. Here we are, coming back on board the French boat. He's had to suddenly turn the boat. They see the French. He's trying to dive out the way of Canada there. Look at that, turns the boat away from the wind. They fall off the foils. What a moment there. That's so unfortunate for the French.
Quentin Delapierre gets it back under control as we are leg 3 of 6, race number 1. We've got 3 races for you today. It's the Australians out in front, Switzerland and the USA. Top 3 right now. The big battle, though, Great Britain and France.
Yeah, what a moment that was. That's meant the French have lost some 200 metres relative to Great Britain in that one incident. That wasn't their fault. How costly is that going to be? Ainsley showing us 5th on board Great Britain, and the French back in 7th. That could be absolutely crucial, as we see at the moment. Switzerland and Denmark doing a nice job up towards the front of the fleet, but, well, Australia knows how to sail away from the fleet, that's for sure.
Some really impressive speeds on that upwind from Australia, averaging 58 kilometers an hour of average speed, while the Swiss and USA in 2nd and 3rd were down at 55.
The 2-time reigning and defending champion Aussies out in front here. What a way to start race number 1, day number 1 here of the Mubadala SailGP Season 3 Grand Final here in San Francisco.
Oh, another really tight incident to the right of our screen.
Penalty USA, relative Denmark, port tack boat not keeping clear.
Oh, these are basic mistakes, really. They're trying to push the limit. We know that, of course they are. But again, another door opens for Ainsley. Could be up to 3rd here. Jimmy Spittle's going to have to drop back behind Denmark. Here we go, we're on board the USA. To the left of the screen would be the Danish. Jimmy Spittle just can't see them, I don't think. Here, look. Oh, sorry for the language we heard there, but they just didn't see him. We heard that. He's on port tack. If you're on port tack, wind coming over the left-hand side of the boat, that means you haven't got the right of way. And here we go, on board Denmark. This is a near miss. Seherstedt. He just spins the boat so late, has to try and keep clear. He shouldn't have to keep clear. That's up to Jimmy Spittle.
And the voice we did hear, minus the language, was Craig Mitchell, the chief umpire. So he doles out the penalty to the Americans, who have to drop behind Denmark. They now sit in 6th place. And look at this shot. What's wrong with this shot? You don't see Australia anywhere on screen.
They're down the road, as are Switzerland, having a great race. I think what's crucial here, Ben Ainsley, it's like Moses parting the Nile, isn't it? He's just sailed through the whole fleet, everyone making mistakes around him. Not sure he sailed a great leg, but he's not made the big mistakes. Canada forced that error onto the French. This could be pivotal so early on in this regatta.
There you see the wind at the top of the screen, 25 kilometers an hour. Lisa Darmanin reporting down in the water. The wind has gotten very light as of late. So this is much different, Stevie, than we saw yesterday in practice when the speed of the wind was closer to 30 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, the wind's coming off that San Francisco shoreline, so it's changeable. It's up and down. When we get the helicopter view, if you're new to SailGP, you'll see darker patches of water, and that's what Tash Bryant in the back there, she's looking around behind her. She's trying to see that texture on the water, establish where there's more wind, and if you put yourself in more wind, you're going to be going faster, and tactically, that's normally not a bad place to start your decision making.
Look at the lead that Australia has in 1st place. They're almost to gate number 4. Switzerland, the top of your screen, currently sits in 2nd place technically, but it looks like Great Britain may have them on distance. Yes, they are into 2nd now. So they'll make their way back up onto leg 5, and then it'll be a short blast to the finish line. Stevie, it's almost unforeseeable that Australia doesn't get this first race win.
Yeah, I think from here I'd be very surprised if it wasn't the case. Switzerland and Great Britain. Great Britain has the right of way. If it's tight, Switzerland must keep clear. Looks pretty tight to me, but I think the Swiss could be clear ahead here. Ainsley and Great Britain sets up for one more turn. They're going to try and dive inside late on in the leg here. Can they execute this perfectly? Swiss should be round. Swiss enter the circle first. They're clear ahead. They own the mark. Ainsley up to third, Todd. What a performance.
Well, this is huge. If Great Britain can end up in front of Switzerland, finish second in this race, and France, who's currently in seventh, Stevie, they will have dug themselves a hole on race number one.
I think the Canadians dug the hole for them, to be perfectly honest, Todd. They caused that error. It wasn't really Contan's fault. He had the right of way. He's going to be livid, but he's got to reset. Plenty of races left.
Quick summary from that last leg, and we can see that Australia still have that faster speed, but no wonder GBR caught up. Significant difference in the distance sailed, 200 metres less than Australia and Switzerland, closing that gap.
The French get a spot on that turn, getting ahead of the Americans. They're up to sixth now as Emirates GBR moves into second place. No, still holding in third with Australia leading. This will be the last upwind leg, and then it'll be a left-hand turn to the finish line.
Yeah, just a couple more decisions left here. The Swiss have positioned themselves nicely. If Great Britain were to turn, they would have to make sure they kept well clear of Switzerland. I'd anticipate 2 more manoeuvres for each crew. It's going to come down to good execution. But this British boat, look, they're hanging in there speed-wise. They're trying to close the gap to the Swiss. But at the moment, control with Schneider on board the Swiss boat.
Ben Ainsley trying to put points between him and Quentin Delapierre in France. And right now, Great Britain sits in third. France sits in sixth.
Here we go, Australia, top right of screen. They've turned. They're going to be approaching the final turn in mark now. You can see the wind looks quite light near that San Francisco shoreline. Great Britain turn, Switzerland match.
Really interesting numbers here of the boat position from Mark 1 till now. Notice that our top 3 teams, none of them had a brilliant start. Mark 1, Australia in 5th, sailed through the fleet up into first. Meanwhile, GBR, we saw their start wasn't great. They were off the bat with French, sailed through the fleet.
None of them in top 3 positions at mark number 1, and now they hold down positions 1, 2, and 3. So it's Australia with a massive lead. They'll come up on another gate. Then it's Great Britain now just edging ahead of Switzerland, who sits in third.
Yeah, and it's Great Britain now with control tactically. They're allowed to turn to their left. It looked like it was turning to the right on our screen, as and when they want, and they'll be able to force the Swiss away. Could be a second place for Great Britain here at the finish. Good control for Ainsley. That's the voice of Ian Jensen, the wing trimmer I'm hearing there. We can turn when we want. They've got the right of way here. Here goes Hannah Mills, strategist. They're setting up for that final turn.
You climb pretty hard here, everyone.
She talks about climbing. They've just been sailing closer to the wind across there. You can sail closer to the wind and go a bit slower to position yourself tactically better.
And Stevie, talk about what Ben Ainsley said right after her. He said we're going in high mode. Explain what that means.
Just means they're going to try and sail closer to the wind. In sailing, you can either sail closer to the wind and go faster.
And it's the Aussies who sneak away and get the win in race number 1.
You can go close to the wind, Todd, and sail slower but less distance, or you sail a little bit further away from the wind, you go faster, but you've got to sail more distance. That's the maths you're always trying to do, and right now, Ainsley has done them pretty well to move himself up through the fleet.
So the Australians pull away from everyone, a massive lead. They get to the finish line while some great battling taking place. And it is Emirates GBR. Great Britain will come into second place as they put distance on the Swiss, who sit in third. So this is where we're going to get very interesting with the math. Where does France end up, and how much of a point lead will GBR have heading into races 2 and 3? Well done for Ben Ainsley and crew. They did exactly what they had to do. Would have loved to have gotten the win, but Stevie, this is good. They put points between them and the French, and that is mission number 1.
Yeah, that's all that matters for them really here, beating that French crew. I don't know that... Don't know as the Swiss come in here in third place. Great result for them, and New Zealand have climbed through the fleet. Look like they should get fourth. I think the French, they're going to be disappointed, but they shouldn't be too discouraged. They actually sailed back very close to the British there, and then, well, as I say, it was the Canadians got in the way, taking on the role of disruptor there as we see New Zealand fourth. Denmark bringing it home here in race 1 in 5th place, and the French, they're going to get a 6th. Not disastrous for Delapierre, but next race is going to need to be a good one.
USA will come in 7th after a pretty solid start for the Americans, and then it's Canada and Spain bringing up the rear. The Canadians being involved in that fracas with France, which really caused them a big setback, Stevie, at that point of the race.
Yeah, huge. I mean, the Canadians didn't have the right of way. They had to keep clear of the French boat. They didn't. Made the French fall off the foils, and that was disastrous. It's interesting, I think, in this. I think the wind's very changeable, so the boats are changing direction, the situation's changing, and there's been a lot of people not seeing other boats. Now, fundamentally, that's really important. Some of the teams might have to think about where they put the strategist. Do they put the strategist on the other side of the boat, give themselves more viewing? It's not as good for performance, but if you're going to not be able to see the other boats, that's a bigger problem.
Phil Robertson in Canada coming off a big win. The last event, they will take 8th and 9th will go the way of Spain and Diego Botín. So a quick reset for everyone. Take a look and have a debrief, Stevie, of what you did right and what you did wrong. But
New Zealand, they're coming into the start line and back in a normal sort of strategy. Tom Slingsby on board Australia. He's going well as we see teams setting up for the start. Delapierre there, he's just being dictated to by Great Britain at the moment. None of this is his plan, Tom.
So he talked about getting higher in the box, Stevie, and we've seen all kinds of different strategy play out yesterday during practice.
Boundary penalty, Australia.
Oh, he's pushed too far outside the box there. That's a bit of a silly mistake. He's going to have to try and turn the boat twice to clear that penalty. We'll look to see if the P drops off there as we see France. The whole fleet is going right to left. France are going left to right on our screen, but they are higher in the box. They're further upwind. They're closer to the Golden Gate Bridge. They've managed to get space. They could have saved their start here. They will have a fast angle towards Mark 1, but Ainsley on board GBR are well lined up. Canada again, Phil Robertson, well lined up. It's all about timing now. Denmark are early. We're going to see the red line in the middle of our screen there turn white when we're good to go. It's all about timing now. France are well lined up. Ainsley's well lined up on Great Britain. How's the timing? Perfect start there. Ainsley on board Emirates Great Britain out the middle of the line. Seb Schneider again, brilliant, but Delapierre's in the race this time. Great save by the French crew there, but it should be Ainsley leading at Mark 1. How high are they going to dare fly their boat?
NASCAR on water here in San Francisco as they are 3 wide as they approach mark number 1. This is race number 2. And how did Ainsley pull this off? Look at this.
Great comeback. The Swiss have managed to hang in there, but they're very soon going to get disturbed wind from the British boat. The British boat have got to keep clear. The Swiss have the right of way here. It's a tight moment in the race. Ainsley's round the front on board Emirates Great Britain, and they're going to be able to sail away now. They can make their own decisions. Swiss first to turn away to clear their wind. New Zealand have already turned away. Another poor start for Burling. He's going to need to sharpen his race game up a little bit here. They won't be happy on board that Kiwi boat, but out in front, Great Britain are extending away as the French turn near the San Francisco shoreline.
Identical race course from race number 1. We saw the Australians, Great Britain and Switzerland, your top 3. New Zealand finished in 4th, Denmark in 5th, and France back in 6th. Remember, France and Great Britain are locked in a battle for the 3rd and final overall position to go to the grand final.
And here we've got our live speeds. Our lead team's doing 70 kilometers an hour in this downwind, so in good pressure for the time being.
And almost more importantly at the moment, the wind has rotated to the right. We can see the boats are nearly sailing straight down the ladder lines, and that's only more good news for the British crew as they're lining up themselves well for Gate 2 already here. They're going to extend away as we see the USA manoeuvring close to the boundary here. Jimmy Spittle in 5th, still in that mid-fleet pack. He'll be hoping to turn it on for the home fans.
The Americans looking to do something that they haven't done in a while. That's win the event. Now, they have no shot of getting to the grand final, but winning on home waters would be huge for Jimmy Spithill and company. Pretty would.
Yeah, I think that's Contan there. He's saying we've got to attack, we've got to push. That means flying the boat high out the water. Emily always tells us that from the data. Fly the boats high and you're going to get these things going a lot faster. That comes with a level of risk, but it's got no choice but to take some risk now, Tom.
This is the time to do it. And we've also got to remember, New Zealand still haven't qualified for this grand final, so they are involved in this. And if Quintin can at least get some places on the Kiwis, you never know.
Coming to this event, New Zealand was sitting on 73 points, France was sitting on 69 points, Emirates GBR on 68 points. So those are really the 3 boats involved in that battle.
Hannah Mills They're the strategist on board Emirates Great Britain. She likes the wind close to that San Francisco shoreline. That's good news for them as France are following towards San Francisco there. They obviously all see more wind on that side of the course, and if you get more wind, you're just going to get the boat going a lot faster. Look there, top left of the screen, the ride height. It's just changed on board Great Britain because they turned the boat, but it's consistently been the highest flying boat on the race course. Luke Parkinson, flight controller, doing his thing.
So I guess the question would be, Stevie, if everyone sees wind closer to shore, then why do the Americans, the Australians, the Spanish, and the Danes go to the other side?
It's the eternal question. We see here that dark patch of water on the top left of our screen. That is what the sailors are looking for. That's the impact of the wind. If you're behind and you're going to follow in dirty wind, well, even if you're sailing towards more wind, you're going to be slower. So it's always a decision. Do I going to lose a little bit of distance following but get more wind, or am I going to split away and hope I can sail at full speed in clear wind and hope that Ainsley and the British crew have made the wrong choice?
Emirates GBR leads here, leg 3 of 6, so halfway through, then it's Canada, USA, Switzerland, and France. And the distance that GBR is putting between themselves and France, Stevie, if this continues, this will certainly be the knockout punch.
This is quite a spot so far, Tom.
What's really noticeable out there here is just how much faster the British team are going and also how much more time they're spending up on the foils, 99%. So they dropped off for a brief moment. While with Canada and France, we saw them down at 97%. France were down at 95% time on the foils. And that's critical. That's just handing away meters every time you touch down off the foils.
So, guys, how do you explain this? All season, Emirates GBR has been in the running, but they have not won an event after 10 events. If they could pull off here and win the 11th event, plus the big grand finale and the $1 million, Ben Ainsley looks like a genius.
Ben Ainsley's always been a pretty good guy at writing his own stories, Tom, and this would be a great way to write the story as the comeback. He does love a comeback. Now, they've been fast all year. You heard Nathan Outridge in the break there talking about they're the fastest boat, and the French, look at them right now, they're off the foils. That green number suggests they're only just going fast enough to foil. It's just pressure. This is just pressure. He's seeing the British boat sailing brilliantly, sailing away. He knows he needs to force things, and it's forcing mistakes. Ainsley is making this happen in the pre-start. They're fast on board Emirates Great Britain, and the French know it.
So at the halfway point of race number 2, check-in down on the water. Lisa, are they playing it safe here, or do you see some pretty aggressive tactics?
Well, this is a little bit different to last race where we saw all those close calls. Everyone's sort of working out a pattern here. The day is gusty, but it looks like Ben and Hannah on the back of that British boat are just linking the gusts together really nicely. They're sailing fast, they're sailing less distance, and they're certainly making it look easier. One other thing I'm noticing out here, as the tide increases, it's getting choppier out here, so the flight controllers had to keep an eye out for that.
And that, Emily, is going to be difficult for the French who want to fly the boat a little bit higher, because with that choppy sea stake, it's going to make it more difficult to handle that boat, correct?
Exactly. What we've seen with the French is they sail quite similarly to the Aussies in they sail the boat very bow down. That means the rudders are that bit closer to the surface of the water. So it's a fast mode, but often it can be a little bit sketchy, especially in choppy sea state, because you risk losing the rudders.
Oh, Canada have got to keep clear here. That's too late. That's another mistake by Phil Robertson and his Canadian crew. Oh, imagine that if Australia got involved in a crash and that took them out of the final, Todd. That Australian boat has to be in working order tomorrow afternoon. Now, he doesn't have the right here. Switzerland has the right. Will Seb Schneider choose to dive inside?
Nope.
No, not quite
Let
close
him
enough.
off the hook.
He did. It's really tight in the pack. Oh, America there, United States. Wow, that was so tight. Slingsby, well, he wants to win. We know that. That's how Tom Slingsby's built, but he's got to get to the final. As the British boat sails away now, and the French, well, they're just stuck back in the pack. This has been an absolute masterclass so far. But Slingsby, well, the ruse in one piece. He's going to be happy with that as we come on board here. Look, they've just manoeuvred. Slingsby crossing the boat with it. Canada must keep clear, but they turn way too late, and it's a last-minute dive. It's probably Kyle Langford holding the wheel, the wing trimmer. He's probably holding the wheel at that point. Here we go, Canada. Will Robertson, we can see him looking. He's unsure, turns to the right, then turns to the left. It's all too late on board Canada. Well, they were amazing in Christchurch, but that right there, they've had 2 incidents in 2 races with the main protagonists for the final. They affected the French in race 1, Australia in race 2. They need to tighten their game up a bit here.
And the question, Stevie, how come no penalty?
I think because as soon as the penalty, there's a lead change in the situation. Australia were instantly ahead of Canada in that moment, so the penalty will have been scrubbed off. But of course, we can see here that doesn't help Slingsby because Canada are already ahead. So that's just a bit of a loophole in our system. Unfortunately, the loophole.
This is the umpires. Penalty, Switzerland, relative, Australia, port-tack boat not keeping clear, penalty clear.
Yeah, that was when the two boats crossed a minute ago. The Swiss needed to cross safely ahead. They were too close. Australia had to take avoiding action. So Slingsby, he's trying to get himself safely through the event. Still in third, but he's got plenty of action. Everyone's trying to ram him at the minute, Todd.
Race number 2 of 3 today, and then tomorrow it is Championship Sunday. Australia is already into the grand final. They just need to get that boat in one piece onto the final race tomorrow. Right now it is GBR, and they are riding their own ticket. They are 1 point back of making the top 3, and they are clearly the fastest boat on the water. Out in front, they were in second place in the first race, looking to put a first place on the board as well. And meanwhile, France is back in 8th.
400-metre lead, you'd take that, wouldn't you? And yeah, the French are struggling, let's be honest. I mean, the pressure's just being wound onto them and onto them. Canada's still in second here. I think they probably should have been a bit harsher punished for that incident with Australia, but they've played the game. They've used the rules perhaps a little bit to their advantage there as they managed to stay in second here. Australia, though, well, he's in one piece. He's up to third. He turns left. Canada turns right. Someone's going to see more wins. Someone's going to make a gain. It's good news for Slingsby at the moment. But the Kiwis, they're noticing them, look, 6th place. They don't seem to be able to get their way through the pack, which is very unusual for them. That's a late dive there by the Swiss. Good judgment, I'll put that down.
Season 3 coming to a conclusion, Stevie, and everyone feeling a little bit froggy here in San Francisco. Why not take a chance?
Everyone pretty happy to push. But anyway, it's been a great race so far. Final upwind leg here, and look at the French wallowing off the foils. This is disastrous for the French crew. This race has been much more of their own making, but it's all come down to that aggression in the start. I can't help but think that Ben Ainsley has got right under the bonnet of Quentin de la Pierre and thrown him off his game.
We can see here just how well these top 3 teams are sailing, all averaging over 60 kilometers an hour. The Australians had a really good leg there, trying to close that gap with the British. We can see the gap has decreased. They sailed marginally less distance and slightly faster, but it's not going to be enough to take the win for the Brits in this.
Emirates GBR with a massive lead. There you see them on top, more than 400 meters. Australia sits in second, Canada sits in third, the Americans in fourth, and Switzerland in fifth. But all that matters right now is where is GBR in relation to France. It is first and ninth as it stands on the table.
Great Britain, they'll be winning the regatta after, as it stands after 2 races. Long way to go. Let's not forget, if we're French fans out there, there's still a long way to go here, but it doesn't get a lot worse than seeing a main rival leading while you're wallowing out the back of the fleet. So they have got to do something in race 3, there's no doubt about that. And for Ben Ainsley, looks to me like being aggressive in the free start is a pretty good approach for him, because he's putting himself in a position where he should be somewhere near the back of the fleet, and he's out in front.
This is the penultimate leg of race number 2. Race number 3 still to come, and that will wrap up day number 1. But right now, Ben Ainsley and Emirates GBR doing exactly what they needed to do, and they put the pressure on France, and France has not been able to respond.
Slingsby working well on board Australia. There's a tight cross coming with Canada here. We saw one of those a minute ago. It'll be interesting when we go back how that looks, but Great Britain, their sailing power. Here we go. Great camera angle here. Australia, yes, they are clear ahead. Maybe Phil Robertson thought we'd give him an inch there after that last upwind leg.
As they cross, you wonder if Tom Slingsby's going to give him a hearty La Cheeserie as he goes by. Thanks for nothing, mate.
2, 1, down.
So they make the turn. It is Emirates GBR that will take the win in race number 2. And with one more race to go, they are looking fantastic on the first day of sailing here at the Mubadala SailGP Season 3 Grand Final, San Francisco. Race number 2 goes the way of the Brits.
That was some performance.
So now the start will be heavy for this third and final race, and where everyone finishes here will be important because points still at a premium.
Canada, they have the right of way here. They're on the inside. Australia must keep clear. He's off the foils. It was a misjudged manoeuvre by the Australian. We don't say that very often. Canada have jumped at the opportunity. Nice from Phil Robertson and his Canadian crew. Dive inside there, and they're going to win the sprint to the finish.
As penalty New Zealand relative to Switzerland.
Very good, cool.
That must have been for a cross earlier on in the leg there, so the New Zealand boat has to let the Swiss get ahead of them here on the leaderboard, which could mean another sixth for New Zealand. They're very much in the middle of the pack, and I thought after practice they look really strong. Australia come across the line in third behind the Canadian crew, and yeah, there you go, the Swiss are passed, but for New Zealand it's not going well at the moment.
No. So the Americans will come in fourth place to go with their seventh in race number one with one more race on the day. The Swiss had a great start once again, and they've got a drag race now to the finish with Denmark for that fifth position. This is big because points are at a premium, but Stevie, the big story out the back is France, and it is Switzerland that gets the edge over Denmark.
Yeah, so the story of the day really was how it was going to play out between Great Britain and France in that battle for third place there. And there wasn't a lot of emotion when they crossed the finish line, but they looked pretty good in France, Emily. Well, they need to dive into the data or something, find out how to fix this.
Well, what's critical now is that the French are now closer to the Kiwis on points than they are to the Brit.
Stevie, do you think there's any way Quentin Delapierre did not anticipate Ben Ainslie racing him this hard?
I think he would have 100% anticipated it, but I don't think he would have anticipated how early in the pre-start Ainslie's been chasing him. And right now, if you're the chaser on board Emirates Great Britain, you've got a brilliant opportunity to push the French back here. He's got good control. France is at the moment trapped. Start line to the left-hand side here, and from this position, Ben Ainslie could quite easily stop the French boat even starting the race. He can't turn down at the moment. Total control with Ainslie on board Great Britain. It's Great Britain and France. This is a huge battle, 20 seconds to go. Great Britain will have a better start than the French from here. Now the French are free, but they're already out the back. Here we go, they wind it up. Australia, United States are well positioned. Burling on board New Zealand is in a good position, but the story's out the back. Ainslie wins another start over Quentin Delapierre. It's a masterclass.
So Australia, Denmark with the best starts. Canada on the nearest part of the screen, a good one as well, as they race off now to mark number one. This is the third and final race today, and then two more tomorrow.
Canada and Australia, we've seen that battle. Tom Slingsby might be a bit nervous about having the Canadians that close to him. They're going fast, pushing hard here on board the Roo. No let up from this Australian crew, but it's Canada first at Mark 1. Expect an early manoeuvre here from the French, and the British crew run across the boat. They're going to turn as well. They split away from the fleet, but Canada and Australia, they move away. As look at that, Ainsley turns, anticipates the manoeuvre of the French. He's absolutely reading the French playbook here, and he's just put himself straight in front of the French. No overtaking opportunity right now for the French as Australia stretch out towards the San Francisco shoreline.
Australia, Canada, Denmark, USA, the top four. Spain now just moves into fourth with the USA in fifth. New Zealand in sixth, so they aren't having a great first day. This is impressive, the way Ben Ainslie, Emily, has handled the French on these first three races.
I think particularly there, what was really noticeable was just how quickly they got up to speed out of that manoeuvre. We had a simultaneous manoeuvre between the British and the French. The French dropped down to 50 kilometers an hour, and it took them a good 15 seconds to build, while the British managed to do it in half the time.
The reason Ben Ainslie's as big a name in sailing as he is, and what he's a lot of people's idols, in 2000 he took out the Brazilian reigning gold medalist completely in this kind of one-on-one situation, a race within a race, if you like. There's two boats racing, but there's 10 out there, but there's a private race happening. Ainslie's the master of this situation. He's built a career on it, he's built a reputation on it. And now Quentin, well, his hero's doing it to him. So I guess that's a compliment, but it's a pretty painful one at the moment.
Australia now out in front with Canada, Spain. We'll keep our eyes on Great Britain and France. It's Great Britain in fourth, France in seventh, and New Zealand not out of the woods either. They're in sixth.
What about everyone else?
What about everyone else? Good question, Tom Slingsby. These last two races, he's been really looking faster on board that Australian boat, but he'll want a win to round off the day on board the Roux, no doubt about that. Third place already for Great Britain after the start. They're in a tricky little spot off the side of the course there. More importantly, 150 metres according to our ladder lines ahead of the French. And New Zealand out the back, they're dropping back here, and we know they can't afford to lose points, Emily.
They definitely can't. But look at GBR, they're 50 kilometres an hour average speed at the moment. Slightly faster than the Canadians were at that point. But the speeds are so up and down today, just showing how big these little gusts and lulls are.
Great Britain turns right. They're in third place. They're choosing to find some space. Oh, it's Canada jump off the foils there. It's really tight, and the French are forced to follow. It's just playing out perfectly for GBR here at the moment. But New Zealand, well, they need to make something happen because Ainsley at the moment, he's in space. He's up to third from having started out the back. That British boat, well, I don't know. They've eaten their Weetabix this morning, that is for sure.
Australia, Great Britain now 1 and 2, Canada, Denmark, Spain, and France in 6th. New Zealand, guys, is a shocker for me as they are back in 7th. They are sitting 2nd overall in the overall standings, but they're not guaranteed to spot the grand final just yet.
No, they're not. New Zealand need to step this up a little bit here. I mean, obviously, they're going to be helped out by the fact that at the moment it's a problem for the French and they're not doing well. But Ainsley, he's up to 2nd here. He's sailing the boat. He's got a good angle. He's progressing up the ladder line well. So that means he's got a good wind shift. Chasing down the Australians, but some 120 metres back. And we know, even at this stage, eyes of Hannah Mills, strategists, are going to be looking backwards at that French boat to make sure, there she is, looking around. Where are the French? Where are the French?
200 metres back. Not yet in the section yet. I'll let you know when you are.
That's Ian Jensen there. He's talking about where they are on the course. Hannah Mills talking about the wind. So Ben Ainsley's got a lot of information being fed to him, and then all that information he gathers from Ian Jensen and from Hannah Mills, he'll process it, he'll make a decision, and they'll execute it.
Leg 3 of 6, the halfway point of the final race of the day as we check in down on the water and Lisa Darmanin.
Well, I definitely think that that left-hand side, where all those spectators are, that shore side, is where the best wind is. So I think the teams are trying to get there. It's just trying to find their best path there. The other thing is to really point out is the Australians, they're locked in that final, but they want to come out here, they want to win races, they want to get the confidence to go into tomorrow. And the Kiwis right now are not doing that. So that's a really interesting observation from out here for me.
No question about it, Lisa. Right now it is Australia way in front, trying to send a message. Remember, they won the first race of the day. Emirates GBR won the second race, and they are sitting 1 and 2 here in race 3. And France, Stevie, is in 8th or 7th now.
Yeah, I mean, they're just getting put at the back of the pack, and as soon as you're at the back of the pack, your options are limited. You know, you can have a strategy. Ben Ainsley said it well. You can have a plan, and everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. At the moment, on every start, Ben Ainsley's punched him in the face.
I didn't know Mike Tyson was a sailor.
No, well, I think he's going about it a bit more intelligently than Mike Tyson might in a boat, but it's certainly, at the moment, the plan's just been knocked out of the French. Quite literally, the wind has been taken out of their sails. When you're at the back of the pack, the whole fleet is blocking the wind, it's challenging your decisions, but Ainsley somehow on board this British boat is able to get in clear space and then start making his own decisions again, and that's what he's done a brilliant job of here.
The deal is not done. They are not in just yet, but what a way to start. Even if they finish 2nd place in this race today, that would give Emirates GBR a 1st and 2 seconds. That's a lot of points.
Some brilliant sailing by the Australians here. We know they're through to the final, but what we also know about them is that they excel when they don't have other teams around them. And right now, both the Australians and the British are sailing in clear open space, but the Australians are 2 kilometres an hour faster on average than the Brits.
In 24 hours, this race will be a 3-boat race, and they'll be racing for $1 million. And Tom Slingsby, what I love about Tom Slingsby and that Australian crew is he openly describes himself as a confident sailor. And there's nothing going to make you more confident than this kind of performance. It's tight at the top here, but clear crosses there. And still on the upwind leg is France as Great Britain are off the screen, heading away in 2nd place. I mean, it's so tight, but Tom Slingsby, he needs this confidence. He could just cruise out there today, but he's choosing to take it on. He wants to win the regatta here here, the Mubadala SailGP here in San Francisco, but he also wants to then set himself up well to be confident for that final. And if I'm on New Zealand, sat in 5th place in the middle of my screen, what confidence are you getting before this final? They might make it, but they're not sailing well today, Tom.
It'll be a winner-take-all race, and the final race tomorrow, as Stevie alluded to, 24 hours from now. Meanwhile, France is trying to find a way to salvage some points. Stevie, if you were on board their boat tonight and back in their shed when they were debriefing, what would you tell that team?
Trying to work out how to sink the English. No, that's clearly not the way to go about it. They're going to have to come out tomorrow absolutely on fire. They're going to be left with no choice but to win 2 races. But the reality of this is Ben Ainslie and Emirates GBR have now put it in their own hands. A sensible day tomorrow, and they're in that final 3. And well, you know, everyone's so good. You're in the final 3, you're in good shape.
Whether we try to lock him off down the bottom here.
So what Tom Slingsby wants to do here is he wants to anticipate which way is Ainslie going to turn at gate number 4. So if Ainslie turns left, Tom Slingsby on board Australia will want to go the same way. Because if you keep yourself in the same patch of water, it makes it all a lot easier.
So looking forward to the grand final, and this is how the teams would currently qualify. So that would see GBR beating France, and currently that 5-point difference. So the French really need to get some more places if they want to salvage it.
One last manoeuvre by the Australian, sets himself up to turn left. Probably at the moment it's sensible for GBR to turn left as well. So Slingsby, he's lost a little bit of distance here, but what he's gained is total control. Every time Ainslie manoeuvres from now on, anticipate that Australian boat manoeuvring with him, and Tom Slingsby will be thinking, this is 24 hours time, this is the $1 million final upwind leg, and I'm going to stay ahead of you, Emirates GBR.
He has done this many times. Tom Slingsby, the 2-time reigning and defending champions for the Australian. He can come into a race, barely make a great final, and then walk away with a big prize. That's just how slick he is. So it's Australia, Great Britain, Canada, Denmark, New Zealand, your top 5. France has clawed their way up to 6th place, and now they are locked in it with New Zealand.
New Zealand's doing enough here. They're doing enough.
Umpires, boundary penalty, Australia.
Unforced error on the Aussies.
Yeah, I mean, they're pushing that off to the edge of the course. If you can try and stretch the course earlier, you might save yourself a manoeuvre later on, but he didn't need to do that. There's no way of thinking that wasn't unforced. Interesting to see there that Great Britain must have gone very wide as well, but clearly not as wide as the Australians. So a little bit of distance lost. They've got to lose 20 metres relative to their perfect speed, but they could probably afford to do that in the end.
So the 3rd and final race of the first day here at the Mubadala SailGP Season 3 Grand Final. It is Australia, the 2-time reigning and defending champions. They have taken hold of this one. They won race number 1. Race number 2 went the way of Emirates GBR. Emirates GBR sits in 2nd place on the right side of your screen, and then everyone else is fighting for the scraps.
Look at the angle difference here between the Australian boat at the front of the fleet and the Canadian boat halfway down. It's just showing how big the shifts are, that the boats can't point in the same direction when they're sailing towards the same point.
Yeah, and it's such a interesting tactical situation. Both the British and the Australians are sailing closer to the wind. They're sailing in that good shift, and that's hurting their speed as well. The one I caught my eye was New Zealand. Lisa told us about the side of the shore near San Francisco being good. New Zealand have made a little gain with that, but at the moment, well, it's a battle royale out front. New Zealand left of the screen in 5th. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see them challenging for 3rd place by the upwind leg here, by the next Mark 5. But, well, with not very much time to go here, one good manoeuvre for Australia, and I think they'll sew up the race.
Australia on leg 5 of 6, the final race of the day. They'll come up to the next gate, and then it's a hard left-hand turn to the finish line, and another flyby for the fans here at a sold-out crowd, as they will make it 2 wins on day number 1. Remember, they won race number 1. Emirates GBR got 2nd on that occasion. Emirates GBR got 2nd in race 2, so not a bad day for Ben Ainslie. I mean, obviously 3 firsts would have been better, Stevie, but a 2nd, a 1st, and a 2nd, that's money.
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely, if you'd have offered him that at the beginning of the day, especially with where the French have come, he'd have bitten your hand off. So brilliant day for the Emirates GBR, because it's a 6th and a 7th for France, and there's another 6th looking like it's going to come in here right now. So for Ainslie, it's just been the perfect day out here.
Well, we've always talked about
Yeah, probably the next two would have been a JK. Would be nice.
On your bow.
so a quick JK for Emirates GBR. Steve, I was going to say, we've said this before, you can't win the regatta on day number 1, but you can certainly lose it, and France has certainly dug themselves a hole. Race number 3, day number 1 goes to the two-time reigning and defending champion, Australia. Take it in grand style.
Yeah, I mean, that was Ben Ainsley debriefing gate number 4 there. He was saying what we should have done in hindsight was not just follow the Australians, it was follow them around the mark and instantly turn. So he's already debriefing. But there you go, they'll be happy on board Australia. New Zealand currently showing in 3rd. They've got one more manoeuvre to do, as in 2nd place, rounding out a near perfect day for Emirates GBR. Is there any motion on board that boat?
That's what it goes.
Take that as some form of positive. Right, the right of way is with New Zealand. They're on the inside. They're pushing themselves really slowly in there, but they have the right of way. Where's Denmark going to go here? He's not allowed inside Canada. Canada could shut the door. It's a tight, tight moment. New Zealand will get to the foils first. Now Canada must keep clear of Denmark as they head towards the finish. It's going to be a sprint. New Zealand will come across in 3rd. Great comeback for Burling, and that could nearly cement his place in the final.
Penalty, Canada, relative Denmark. Windward boat not keeping clear.
Tight, tight, tight. Canada are going to have to drop back behind Denmark, so they may cross the finish line ahead, but those results will be washed over as France come across in 6th.
Well, not the day that France was looking for, so a 6-8-6.
Boat that sounded so calm. I mean, you don't need to speak French to sort of hear the tone there and know that that's a bit rattled. Tight moment at the back of the fleet. Spain dive inside Switzerland at the last minute there. It was a tight, tight move. Diego Botin not afraid to get involved, but it's going to be a race to get on the foils for these two boats here. I think it's going to be a race to get to the showers for the French team to have a bit of a reset ahead of tomorrow, because they've just got to come out all guns blazing and hope for a mistake from Ainsley, which doesn't seem too forthcoming at the moment.
USA finishes in 7th, Spain will get 8th, and Switzerland will end up in 9th on the 3rd and final race of the day. So a lot to digest, as Stevie pointed out, for the French, a lot to talk about, because they're going to have an absolute stunner day tomorrow and hope that Emirates GBR has all kinds of issues.
Coming down here in front of the thing.
And probably going to see a calmer approach from Emirates GBR today. They had such a good day yesterday. They're going to be a bit less focused on France, a bit more focused on themselves, but expect some tight action.
Under a minute to go as we get ready for race number 4. It is Championship Sunday here at the Mubadala SailGP Season 3 Grand Final, San Francisco. Everyone is going to want to lead this race, Stevie, and get to that Mark 1, get away from trouble, and really end Season 3 with some momentum.
Exactly right. We're looking here now at this lineup. The boats are all early back in the box. The start line to the left-hand side of screen shows us red at the moment. That'll be white when the start line's clear to go. We see Emirates GBR, they turn in late. Australia and New Zealand up the line. They have a good position here. We're right overhead. What a view of this start line here. Emirates GBR looking good. Who's going to get their timing right as we come in? Australia foiling. Let's watch what happens.
4.5. Don't slow it for 3.5.
Emirates GBR lined up well here. Canada lined up well as well, and Australia's timing at the top of the line. They're going to have the fastest angle towards Mach 1. How's your timing up at the top of the line there, Tom Slingsby? Watch for the lines turn wide. Oh, they're all on the money, but out of the middle of the line, it's Canada. Australia at the bottom, a close incident between USA, and they're at the bottom. Hopefully everyone's okay on that start, but Canada are going to lead the fleet into Mark 1 unless Tom Slingsby can get that roof flying in fast.
As they approach Mark number 1, it is an absolute drag race. Who has the inside line? And right now, it looks like the Canadians will lead at Mark 1 here in race number 4.
Brilliant start from Phil Robertson, but Tom Slingsby, well, of the finalists, or the wannabe finalists, he looks pretty good from here. Good news for Emirates GBR in 3rd as the French look to turn away. But Phil Robertson, there is an event inside the event here, Todd. The first after 5 races has got a nice prize money purse to take, and there's going to be a lot of competition for that.
The regatta win here in San Francisco, but the big prize comes up in the final race of the day. That's a $1 million race between only the top 3 point getters on the season.
Canada flying downwind at the moment, 65 kilometers an hour, 40 miles per hour, 32 knots for all the different numbers.
Early to turn though, Emily. There we see the Canadians have turned, they've spun away, they had that great boat speed that you mentioned, but as we look here in the distance to lead, it's GBR. They were first to turn, coming down the middle of the course. There's a little bit more adverse current on that San Francisco shoreline. It's kind of like a treadmill. It's going from left to right on the screen. They've got off the treadmill. They're in more favourable water on Emirates GBR. And Ben Ainslie, well, he had a great day yesterday and he's come out the blocks, reading the conditions well. When he turns, he'll have the right of way, but I think Canada might be doing enough right now to hold on to that lead.
And they are certainly flying high, Emily. We saw those ride heights. Let's see, go back to the start here with the USA.
Oh, Jimmy Spinner, he didn't have the rights to turn, couldn't have seen Rottwell Denmark coming in, and there's contact there. Hopefully no much too damage to the boat. Sehested, look at this, he turns away last minute, but there on board the boat, Jimmy Spittle. Must be a miscommunication on that US boat for an incident like that to happen, but back with the racing live, we can see it was Canada. They did well on that shoreline, and perhaps in more of an intense battle for the overall season. Ben Ainslie's GBR rolling over the top of Australia. Is that going to be the scene that we see in roughly an hour's time for now? Well, it will be for $1 million.
Like 2 of 6 as they approach the bottom gate. They'll make the turn back up. It is Canada that has the lead. Emirates GBR sits in second, and look at the Australians. They bear away, so it'll be interesting to see how those tactics play out for Tom Slingsby.
Tight on the inside there. Switzerland have the inside of Spain. Good job by Diego Botin. Gives Sepp Schneider room. The Swiss round inside. They're in 5th, but we're going to learn a lot about the course here. Canada turning towards the shoreline. GBR in 2nd. But who's got the right here? Who's got the most wind? Slingsby offshore and Phil Robertson closer to the shore. We'll learn a lot about the race course in the next 2 minutes.
Denmark and the USA bringing up the rear after that incident will make sure that they're okay. No damage done to the boats, but it's Canada, GBR, Australia now moving in 2nd place ahead of the Brits, and France now moving up to 4th.
All right, 10 should be ahead. Very close.
Ben mid-jib now.
Goes the right way with Australia. It's going to be tight with Emirates GBR again here. If it's tight, Emirates GBR must avoid contact. Turns the boat away behind the Australians. And now it's a real test of boat speed up this leg here. The Canadians are doing a great job of hanging in, but it's Australia heading back towards the San Francisco shoreline. There should be more favourable current, but is there more favourable wind that way for the Australians?
I think we can go a little faster here, 55.
In that low drag mode there, Tom. We see them all kneeling down. And of course, yesterday I said I didn't think Slingsby was allowed to do that. I checked my rule book. Tom Slingsby confirmed for me overnight, and they are allowed that low drag position.
Canada's sailing really well at the moment. They're the fastest boat out on the course, 61 kilometers an hour average speed. Really important to note as well, we don't have the numbers here, but they are getting an even wind speed across the course, so a lot more stable than it was yesterday.
They love the consistency. So Australia now in 1st place. France has moved up to 2nd, with Canada in 3rd and Great Britain in 4th. Stevie, this is the performance that France needed yesterday.
Yeah, hindsight's a beautiful thing, isn't it, Todd? And, you know, maybe too late for contact. He's not had the direct attention of Ben Ainslie's Emirates GBR to do it. But I think what's interesting is for those that are watching SailGP for the first time, these boats, despite being different colours, they're all identical. So Emily just said the wind was a lot more steady today than yesterday. That means with these identical boats, it's all about the sailors on board the boat and how well they can use the equipment. And right now, Slingsby, he's made some distance back on the Canadians, but it's Canada with the right of way. Close stick there behind, and it's Canada hanging on by the skin of his teeth on board the Crazy Canucks there. But he's going to be now lacking the right of way when he comes back with Australia. But has he found more wind? Can the Canadians stretch from here?
Canada not in the running to make the grand final later today. That's the last race of the day where only the top 3 teams will battle it out for the $1 million and the overall season title. But you've got Canada, Australia, France, GBR, Denmark, your top 5.
Check it, Billy.
Ladder line there showing us that the Canadians have got a roughly 100-metre lead at the moment, but the thing is changing all the time. It's a very dynamic situation. We can see France up to 2nd, but I think the Australians will be looking quite good when they turn, and there should just be one more turn for the Australians before this upwind gate. And we've seen it can be quite crucial. Who leads at gate 3 often extends away to take a good lead in the race. we go. Sorry, Todd, but I was just going to say, when Australia attack, they're turning the boat through the wind here. They're going to be parallel to that yellow line. That should mean they make gate 3 with no more manoeuvres. They have the right of way. Canada must gate clear, but can either of them make it in one more go?
Calm voices as we get ready for some chaos here at the top of the course. This will be gate number 3 as they make their way around. This is a six-leg race. This is race number 4, race number 5 coming up, and then the grand final where only the top 3 teams will battle it out here in the Pacific.
Canada and Australia will make it through with no more turns, but will the Australians choose to take another turn and move away from the Canadians? Yes, they do. Who's going to see more wind here? They both round at an identical time, and it's all about who's found the most wind for this downwind leg. If you find more wind, you're going to go faster. GBR up to 3rd. It's tight in the pack, but at the moment, the Australians and the Canadians are doing a masterful job.
Well, yesterday it was the Australians and the Brits that dominated. Australia winning races 1 and 3. Emirates GBR winning race 2, and also a second place in race number 3 as they surpassed France on the overall standing. So right now, the way it is going to be Australia, New Zealand, and Emirates GBR in that grand final unless something major happens.
Canada on that shoreline, we just saw them there. The Australians, they've turned the boat downwind. They're in a nice position, keeping it tight with Great Britain here. Slingsby won't want the confidence going over to the British crew. Slingsby talks about being a confident sailor, so I expect to see him through the day continue to push. He won't want to go into this final undercooked, and right now 50 metres behind the Canadians, but still 100 metres ahead of that Great British boat.
Wind speed hovering right around 25 kilometers an hour. For a report on the conditions down in the water, we set it down to Lisa Darmanin.
The differences between the gusts and lulls aren't as big as we've seen in previous days, so it is about the little gains out here. Those extra meters are really counting when the boats come together. So I don't think you need to be a hero out here. You just need to take the little wins, and that's why we're seeing the leaders are not extending as much as other days. So yeah, really tight racing out here, and it's just looking fabulous.
And Stevie, I know they're all very competitive, but is it Tom Slingsby, Ben Ainsley, are they thinking about Peter Burley? Are they thinking about the championship? It's kind of going into championship mode and not pushing it too much?
I don't think either of them are not pushing it, but I'm certainly noting that Tom Slingsby's not wanting to give Ben Ainsley on board Emirates GBR an inch of space. He wants to make sure he's right in front of him the whole time. Trying to get Ben Ainsley used to seeing the back of his boat, because if that's what happens as the day goes on, then obviously Tom will be very, very happy.
They are the 2-time defending and reigning champions. Australia currently right now sitting 3rd in race number 4. But they have already punched their ticket into today's final race, the grand finale.
There we go. We heard Phil Robertson a moment ago on the onboard comms say he liked this turn away from the shore. He felt the Australians gained on the first upwind leg. He's learned his lesson, and this Canadian boat turns away. The Canadian crew doing a fantastic job on board that boat. They looked a little ragged yesterday, but they're sailing the boat well today. They're fast, and right now they've got the Australians behind them, and Phil Robertson's going to be keen to keep them there. One more upwind leg, and then a short reach leg to the finish. Not a lot of this race left here, Todd.
Top of the course, and then it'll be a hard left, and they'll be right on shore, so the fans there will get a great view of the winner of race number 4, and race number 5 will come shortly thereafter. As Australia turns away, Canada looks go to the top of them. Stevie, is this a situation where Phil Robertson's going to try to send some dirty air if he can get a better angle on Australia?
Here we go. It looks like it's gone pretty well for the Australians again here, Emily. They look like a small gain on the Aussies. Oh, sorry, on the British.
Yeah, coming out on that right-hand side didn't leave a lot of room for the Brits there after a really good downwind performance. We saw the Brits downwind gain back the distance. They were the fastest, 63 kilometers an hour. But after the rounding, ended up going inshore and into a lighter patch. We saw them drop off the foils briefly before coming back out offshore.
We're always learning about the course here, but right now we can see Australia. They're going pretty fast. They're showing us 50 metres ahead of the Canadians. When they turn on board Australia, they need to be sure they can cross clear ahead of Canada, because it's Canada that have the right of way. This is a tight moment. We go on board here with the British boat as they manoeuvre the boat here. They're in a lot of space. It'll be very interesting when we see the boats coming back together. Nice manoeuvre there. Australia have turned. No, he has to turn the boat away aggressively from the Canadians. He just can't quite get past. Now he's going to have to watch out for the French. That could be costly for Slingsby. They've got really slow. Look at the boat speed at the top of the mast. 43 kilometres an hour versus 45. Canada turn on the boundary. France have the right of way again. I think the French are ahead of the Canadians here. It's a tight race on this final upwind leg as Ainsley moves past Slingsby.
Quentin Delapierre of France, they were mired back in 5th place. Now they have moved into 1st place with this final leg and then the left-hander to the finish line. And this is the performance that the French needed yesterday as they dropped so many points. Remember, they had a terrible first day, finishing in 6th place. The next race they finished in 8th, and then the final race of the day finished in 6th.
On board the Australian boat there, we see they had to turn away. Tash Bryant grabbing the wheel there, had to do an aggressive turn as Tom Slingsby was on the other side of the boat. We see Tom there, runs across, they change back over, and well, right now it's the British have found a good wind shift. The wind has rotated to the right. That means the Brits have sailed less distance on this upwind leg, and at the moment they've gained, but plenty of gulf left in this. 500 metres to go. France and Australia. Australia have the right of way. What does Delapierre do? It looks like he's going to try and push across to me. What a tight moment there. Oh, that was so close.
I think what's important to remember with these crosses is France, they've got nothing to lose.
Right.
They might as well push for every cross they can. Australia cannot afford any damage. So they're probably going to be safer on all of these crosses.
Oh, another close one.
I'm not sure Ben Ainsley can afford any tight crosses either. Everyone, I think we've just answered your question, Todd. These teams are pushing the very limits here. Now, look, Mark 5 looms large. It's going to be a tight rounding. France coming in. They have the right of way at the moment. How do the British boat look on them?
This requires penalty GBR, relative Australia, four-tank boat not keeping clear.
That was that cross just a moment ago. That's going to be costly for Ainsley. Now, he's got to drop behind the Australian boat to clear his penalty. It's really complicated here. France will lead at Mark 5. They're in good shape. Canada are going to be a late player in this, along with Denmark. That yellow circle, if Canada can get inside that before Great Britain, they're allowed to turn inside. Great Britain have to wait for the Australians. What a costly penalty for Ainsley. Too aggressive late in the race. Canada are going to get through to 2nd, and we could get the Australians passing Britain as well. What a disaster for Emirates GBR.
So France comes out swinging on day number 2, Championship Sunday. But is it too little too late for Quentin Delapierre and French? But the French come across the finish line, and it's C'est Magnifique once again. Quentin Delapierre gets the win in race 4.
Brilliant result for them, but back in the pack, the Canadians looked like they were off the foil. They were. Denmark dived through. Slingsby's gone round the outside. Disaster for Canada. They just got really slow on that final mark. Who's going to get it on the line here, Todd?
And it looks like Australia just gets ahead of Denmark. So it's France, Australia, Denmark, your top 3.
Oh, did you hear the Aussies there? How much that meant to Slingsby. That's 2 points advantage over the British in terms of this race for the event win here in San Francisco. Let's forget about the championship. We've got a tight battle for the Grand Prix event here in San Francisco. One more race left in that. That will decide the winner here in San Francisco before we go on to the championship final 3-boat race, which I think we might find out now has almost been set in stone as to who can make that final.
Difficult day for the Americans to start things off as they had that incident at the start line. We'll have to find out if there was any damage done to their boat or that of the Danes. Americans finish in 7th place with Spain coming across in 8th, and the Swiss will finish in 9th at the bottom of the heap. So a quick time to catch your breath. 1:12 to go before the start of the 5th race. That's the entire fleet, and then it gets whittled down to just 3 for the $1 million race here on the Bay.
Coming back to Emily's point in a moment, I think the real key race here is for New Zealand. For New Zealand, it's a really hard race, I think. They've not found any momentum in the pre-starts, and I think they want to get a good result going into this grand final race. So I think Australia and Great Britain, maybe they'll be in that preserve mode, but I'm not sure Tom Slingsby and Ben Ainsley have that in their headspace. So expect fireworks from New Zealand on this start line. They need to start to put a mark down ahead of the $1 million race. But the boats are all lined up here. We swing round behind the fleet. New Zealand are aggressive. They're up on the foils, coming down across the fleet. Great view behind the start line here. Looks like New Zealand are going to try and start in the middle to the top of the screen. Australia, they're well lined up for time with 16 seconds to go. Everyone looking a little bit early back towards the start line. It's tight on the left-hand side of our screen here. But New Zealand and Australia are up the line. They're well set up. Canada are going to be good again. Watch your timing as the line goes white. What's going to happen? Great start there by Canada, but right-hand side of screen, Australia sailed New Zealand off the start. Another mistake in the pre-start by Burling. He needs to improve that. But it's Jimmy Spittle fast out of the blocks, and he's going to be pressed by Phil Robertson and Diego Botan on Spain as they race to Mark 1.
Hey, no rush to drive.
Race number 5 is on here in San Francisco, and it's the Americans leading the herd. Here we go, mark number 1, Jimmy Spithill, and USA SailGP out in front.
Okay, coming up, late spot coming.
It's a good Control-Alt-Delete reset by the USA boat there. They lead Spain as well. Good mark rounding for them, but they've got Canada breathing down their neck. In the background, we see first to turn away, it's Emirates GBR. That's worked well for them this weekend. They're going to find some space. They can sail their own race. They will be fast as we see the rest of the fleet chasing in front of the fans here. What a view the fans have got on the shoreline there. But it's all about the lineup for gate number 2. Emirates GBR have got space at the minute, but will they find more wind?
And here we have that wind. So USA on the shore side of the course, 29 kilometers an hour of breeze. Meanwhile, GBR currently further offshore. They're in less, 22 kilometers an hour of pressure. So we'll see if that early jibe works for them or not.
A little hectic right now as the fleet has not separated by much at all. Everyone within 200 meters of each other. This is leg 2 of 6. This is the final fleet race, and then the big final coming up shortly thereafter with only the top 3 teams. Right now, the USA, Stevie, having a great run here. This is what they needed yesterday. Yeah, it looks like all the boats that went in towards the San Francisco shoreline have found a little bit more wind at the moment. GBR didn't make any real gain from that maneuver there. But yeah, USA, Canada, they're well set up here as we approach gate 2. And the Australians, it's going to get tricky for them as all the boats turn back towards them. Australia will be the boat that must keep clear.
A very vulnerable position here, obviously. I will.
I agree, Tom. He's in a tricky one. He's done a nice job. Here we go. Late turn in front of the French as we see things setting up at the bottom of the course. USA, well positioned for gate 2. Last race, Todd, most of the boats preferred to turn left and come away from the San Francisco shoreline. It'll be interesting to see tactically what the boats do at the bottom of the course here.
They will be inside.
And for those teams, Emily, that already know they're into the final, namely Australia and New Zealand, how much of this is just a practice or a warm-up for what they'll be competing for that $1 million race?
I think the word that Stevie has used over and over is momentum.
Here we go, it's tight. They're talking about that. Look at this, how tight it is there. Spain have the inside, but Emirates GBR tried to dive inside. Aggressive tactics from Ainsley. It'll be interesting to see if he chooses to put that one in the umpire's hands. Slingsby's got around the outside, but he should have been able to give room to Emirates in there. That was a tight moment in the race, and they're certainly racing hard to just take...
This is the umpire's penalty. Australia, relative GBR, didn't give room at the mark.
Chief umpire Craig Mitchell doling out the penalty to Australia.
Well, it's not always that I agree with Craig, but I felt that one was right. Look, left-hand side of screen, though, New Zealand, another unforced error at the mark. They've fallen off the foils, trying to find themselves some space. The New Zealand boat's not quite up to form just yet.
Well, it looks good from the helicopter in the race, and extremely tight, Stevie. That's 4 boats within that circle, all trying to take that same real estate. But on board, it was even better. It was absolute chaos and extremely hectic on the comms.
At the moment, we're seeing boats on both sides of the course dropping off the foils.
Here we go, on board Australia.
Just watch Spain, adding some rudders.
You can see here he's preparing. He's got Emirates GBR coming in late. Oh, we can see there Slingsby. He almost didn't seem to see Ainsley until too late. He thought he was easy around the outside. He wasn't, and he's got a penalty now. But the penalty's clear. He dipped behind Emirates GBR, but both boats are back in the pack here. In fact, all 3 finalists are near the middle back of the fleet. And I'm not convinced that's because they're trying to be there. The Aussies are really not holding back, given the situation we've got in the event.
So this is race number 5. Canada leads. The USA sits in 2nd. Denmark in 3rd. France in 4th. And this is the race of the grand final. As it stands right now, Emily, Australia, they've already locked their position in, but New Zealand and Great Britain pretty much cemented their spot.
They have. What I think is the more interesting battle at the moment is this race is going to determine who wins the event here in San Fran. Forget about the grand final for a moment. There's actually a really tight battle here between the British and Aussies for the San Fran prize.
And as you said, momentum is a huge situation. But again, the weather is always the big calling card on what it will deliver for that grand final and for the remainder of this race. And for that, we check in down in the water with Lisa Dormanin.
Well, the wind has come a little bit more unstable than we saw in the previous race, but you know, it's the same game. It's about linking it all together. It is getting a little bit choppier out here as the tide accelerates, so the teams are also having to adapt to that in terms of their ride height and their maneuvers out here in San Francisco.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Leg 3 of 6. This is race number 5 as we get ready for the grand final. But to Emily's point, there's still a battle within the battle. Someone's going to walk away with the title, the Mubadala SailGP Regatta Championship, and then the top 3 boats on the season will fight for that $1 million championship race. So the USA now out in front by over 100 meters on Canada. Denmark coming into view, and that's interesting because the USA and Denmark had that little get-together at the start of race number 4, if you were with us for the start of our broadcast, on the left back end of the USA just smashing into the Danes, but it looks like all boats are okay.
It's a French boat turn. I like the results on the left there, Todd. USA, Denmark, Canada, Australia, France. I think what's been so good about season 3 in SailGP is the depth in the fleet. Any one team, if they get out in front, can sail away and win a race. Jimmy Spittle, he's not had the best regatta here, but if he can sign off with a win, he's going to see that as some serious momentum as they head out of season 3 and into season 4.
A lot of parity so far across the 10 events that we've had here in season 3, and it's going to get a little bit crazy down there as we come up on the next gate. This one's sponsored by Near here in race number 5, leg 3 of 6, and it's the Americans that are first there.
It's going to be tight between Canada and Denmark. The Canadians are across ahead here, no problem. Denmark split the course. It's tight in the race there, but I think now the USA are well set as they sail off downwind. They've got to thread their way through the fleet still coming up to gate number 3. And that's another challenge for the crews, but they've got the right of way on board USA. Everyone's got to keep out of their way, and things are now well set.
Australia are round before the British team. That's good for them in terms of winning this event here.
$300,000 for the event winner, Emily, so that is not bad change there. Plus, if you could double down, win the event, plus win the grand final, you're looking at $1.3 million into the Stevie Morrison coffers.
If only. I haven't done any deals with Tom Slingsby, unfortunately, but I think most importantly, Tom, last year, he did win both. He won the event here in San Francisco, then took the grand final, and again, sport is so much about momentum, and especially for a sailor like Tom Slingsby, who just is so driven by confidence and form, and he's sailing well here, but sailing really well today. The Canadian boat, they're chasing down here hard. They're going to take the lead. He's got the right of way. Jimmy Spittle swerves out the way to avoid a collision, and there you go. Phil Robertson's Canadian boat. Chris Draper, wing trimmer there. He's got that wing set up very aggressively down here, and they're going fast as they sail down towards gate number 4.
The top 3 all sailing really well. In that last leg, we saw Canada with the highest average speed, 54 kilometers an hour. The Danish actually sailing significantly less distance than the leading 2 teams. I mean, we can see here they're catching up pretty quickly by aiming straight at the bottom gate.
Good example of it. Just imagine they're in more wind there. If you get yourself in a bit more wind, you start going a lot faster, and it is a gusty wind. It is affected by that land we can see behind us there. And if you find a gust of wind, you're going to get going a lot faster. Right now, here we go. It's close at the bottom of the course here. Right of way is with the United States and Jimmy Spittle. Phil Robertson needs to be confident that he's ahead of the States here.
How much of his decision-making will Stevie be on the fact that he has the right of way?
Well, Jimmy knows he can hold straight, so he's going to be making any decision he wants, and it's Phil Robertson that's got to judge if he can be clear ahead. He wasn't, he's dipped behind, but he was clearly happy to take the left turn at the bottom. Historically, that's gone quite well today. Jimmy turns right, Canada turns left. This is the final upwind leg here of race 5 in San Francisco, and who's going to get the win in the last race? Fourth place for Australia at the bottom gate. That's the battle for the event win here, being chased down. We can expect an aggressive move from Ainsley. He's trying to split away. There you go. Round the mark, straight into another manoeuvre. That's a manoeuvre called a JK. They turn the boat into the wind, split away. What he's trying to do there is get separation from the Australians. He doesn't want to follow. If he follows, he'll be in turbulent wind and he'll just go slower. But Todd, New Zealand in 7.
Yeah, that's suspect. You talk about momentum, and the rumor is that Pete Burling in New Zealand may be sandbagging, saving it for the grand final, but that doesn't give you a lot of momentum.
I just think, I mean, to be able to turn it on for one race, and I know, you know, there's a lot of talent out there on the water, but I think I'd want to know I was hitting the start line well. I'd want to know I was making good race decisions. No saying Pete and Claire and the crew can't turn it on in this final, but I'm surprised to see them sandbag this much, if that's what they're doing.
Leg 5 of 6 here on race number 5. It's Canada, USA, Australia, your top 3.
Really big gains there for the Australian team by going offshore. Definitely lighter pressure on that inner shore, seeing the USA team drop down into 3rd place.
We've seen that. That's going to be good news for Australia against Great Britain as well, because Great Britain chose to head back towards the shoreline before Australia, and it does look like a big game for Slingsby.
I'm just going for the Canada. Okay, good first here.
Slingsby standing up to have a look. I think right now he probably likes what he sees. Yes, he does. He's chasing this Canadian boat down. Australia has the right of way. Phil Robertson needs to be sure he's ahead. It's going to be tight. Robertson will no more push. I imagine there'll be questions asked on that one. That was tight, that is for sure. But now, Robertson heading away from the San Francisco shoreline. He now needs to watch out for the United States, and it's Slingsby heading towards the shore side, where there has been less wind. Is this Ainsley's chance to get back in the race?
This is,
All right.
Crossing US.
Yeah, he did it.
this is the
I
umpire.
can't see any. Yeah,
Full clear, full clear.
Okay, that was going back to that incident. Phil Robertson tried to push across in head. A little bit back to Emily's point. Nothing to lose. Phil Robertson happy to push hard. He's got a penalty, but he's already dropped behind Australia, so that penalty's clear. Now when they come back together, the Canada will have the right of way. So let's hope this is going to be really, really tight here. That yellow line, that's the line. If they're sailing along that line, it means they make the next mark, Mark 5, with no more manoeuvres.
Getting flatter up front, heavy. Got it.
We're listening in on Australia at the moment here as they manoeuvre the boat into Mark 5.
Jimmy might be inside, but...
Copy. Down forward.
It is an absolute drag race to mark number 5. This is it. Australia, the USA are on somewhat of a collision course. The Aussies look like they're going to get to the circle first, and they do, so they have the right of way. The USA will tuck into 2nd place.
Clear around the head there.
Wow.
It was a really tight moment. Jimmy's managed to get back past the Canadians, but Canada are foiling, and they're going to get through on the inside. USA fall off the foils in the manoeuvre, but it's going to be Australia that take the event win here, Todd.
Australia, with all the momentum in the world, the 2-time reigning and defending champions, win race number 5.
If you want to go into a final with confidence, Todd, that is how you go about it on board the Australian boat. Canada, their great finish to their season. Jimmy Spiddle's US crew, well, it's not been a season they'll be too happy with, but it's nice to finish with a good result for them there. And here we go.
Well, this is the battle we focused on so much yesterday. Great Britain and France. Remember, coming into this event, it was France that had the 1-point lead on Great Britain, but after yesterday's performance, Great Britain took that spot away, and now they are into the grand final.
Well, it's all about to get a bit serious, Tom.
Yeah. Fans, look at that. It doesn't get much better than that. This is such an iconic place to race, Stevie, and it allows the fans to have that stadium-like situation.
Well, I felt a year ago we were a little bit robbed of the classic final. We didn't get the wind that we had on day 1, but you can't ever guarantee the weather. We're powered by nature, of course, in SailGP. We rely on that turning up, and today Mother Nature's turned up. We're in one of the great stadiums for sailboat racing. We've got the best sailors in the world, and I think we might be about to watch the biggest sailboat race in 2023.
So the win in race number 5 goes to Australia, with Canada finishing in 2nd, the USA in 3rd. Switzerland still learning the ropes of this tricky bay racing, as they will finish in 9th place. And so the entire fleet is in safe and sound, which means Season 3's fleet racing is complete. It all comes down to this one final race between the top 3 points getters. Under a minute to go before the grand final here in San Francisco. This is the Mubadala SailGP Season 3 Grand Final. This is a race for $1 million.
Interesting change of tactics already here. Great Britain are late into the box right now, and New Zealand, they're aggressive. They've turned in close to Australia. The Kiwis have a little bit of control over the Australians at the moment. They're well back from the line. Ainsley's going to have a chance to set up on them, but it's all about timing. Can you be at top speed when the line goes white? That's what we're looking looking for now. Aggressive from Slingsby. Dives across, looking for that inside position. They're going to be fighting back to the line and expect the Kiwis to be separated from the other two boats at the start. Ainsley's hooked. Ainsley's going to be slow and driven off out the back on board Great Britain at the moment. So aggressive from Slingsby. I think the best two starts are going to be New Zealand and Australia for here. Watch for the line to turn right. How's your timing? We go in the $1 million race here in San Francisco. What a start. Australia and New Zealand perfect. It's New Zealand with a slightly faster angle to Mark 1, but Slingsby's going to be on the holding on the inside, and he will control things at Mark 1. Ainsley's got work to do on board Great Britain.
So with just 3 boats out on the bay, the battle is on. Mark number 1, it's Australia and New Zealand as the old rivals get together one more time.
New Zealand must keep clear. Slingsby's aggressive. This is an opportunity for Ainsley. Ainsley will be back in the race here at Mark 1, but the Australians lead. They have control of the first decision, and it's now a test of speed. Which one of those flight controllers is going to be brave enough to fly the boat highest? Expect Ainsley to be the first to turn the British boat away.
And look at those speeds approaching 70 kilometers an hour. There you see Great Britain on the left side of your screen, Australia right in the middle as we ride on board with the Kiwis.
Setting up in the background of the British crew there. No control for the Kiwis at the moment. They're really much reliant on the other boats turning away. First to go, it's Emirates GBR. Second, it's going to be Australia, and it's how well lined up they are for Gate 2. We heard from Lisa, and we've seen in both races that at Gate 2, it's been favourable to turn left. Can the British make it down here with no more manoeuvres? If not, then it should be controlled to Slingsby early on in this $1 million race. 44-metre lead right now. I wonder what the heart rate is, Todd. Mine's pretty high.
Emily, how far out are they already looking at what direction they're going to turn?
They'll be constantly thinking about 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves ahead of them. They're going to be thinking even about the next gate after this one.
They'll have decided that before the start, 100%. If we're leading, we want to turn left. That will be in a set play situation here. But for the boats behind, they're already taking second pickings here, Todd. But we're early in the race, so it's about keeping it tight right now. But look at the boat speed on board the Australians.
Be going a right turn. Happy to be a little fast, nothing major.
What's Tom Slingsby seen? We thought they liked left turn early. Slingsby wants to minimise the number of manoeuvres here. The water's getting choppier, it's tight. New Zealand and Great Britain. Great Britain have the right of way. That was a close cross for the Kiwis. Interesting if anything comes
Everyone's
of that.
going right.
They are all setting up for right. It saves you a manoeuvre by going right. Every time they turn the boat, you slow down. So they're saving a manoeuvre going right. But don't be surprised to see the Kiwis take a different choice when we get down the bottom here, as they're now well out the back of the fleet, and they need a miracle from here. Maybe not a miracle, but they've got to find more wind from here.
Well, we've seen this before at gate number 2 with Australia out in front and in control. There you see the wind speeds at the top. They're traveling right around 57 kilometers an hour, and the wind holding right under 30 kilometers an hour. So we'll see in the upwind how they handle it, and it's the Brits the first one to make the turn.
They were just following behind the Australians, so they would have been a disturbed wind going a bit slower there, Todd. So their option was to move away. I think for New Zealand, they've got to hope that Australia engages Great Britain.
New Zealand offshore, slightly less pressure than the boats close inshore, so that's good news for Australia at the moment.
It's going to be a tight race here, though. The Australians are keeping it tight. They want to be trying to travel in the same direction as the boat in second place. So right now, they've both got the wind coming over the left-hand side of the boat on board Great Britain and Australia. New Zealand, well, they're going the other way, but over 150 metres behind on our ladder lines. We can see they've got a bit of work to do.
Leg 3 of 6 on the $1 million race, the final race of season number 3 as we go down into the water, and Lisa Darmanin.
Well, it is certainly patchy out here, which means that there's lots of little pressure pockets around the race course. So I know I was saying I thought one way worked, but I think staying flexible out here during this race is everything. The other thing, it's later in the day, it's choppier out to sea, so I think they might be searching for flatter water to hit higher speeds as well.
Textbook positioning by Tom Slingsby here. We can see the wind is coming from the right-hand side of our screen. It will be deflecting off the Australian wing, and it will be turbulent by the time it reaches Great Britain. That'll be slowing them down.
Our move is to match Ben on the next one, but it's going to work a bit of height, yeah.
When he says match, he wants to be directly lined up with them, Todd. He wants to be going the same way. If you can sail in the same patch of wind, and you're confident of your speed, as the Australians are, then there's a very little chance for the British to get by.
And why wouldn't they right now? Look at the speeds at 55 kilometers an hour going upwind. They've got almost a 200-meter lead on Great Britain, who sits in second, and the Kiwis still having their issues in third.
Kiwis have got to find a bit of space and try and get away from the other boats, but that's just not easy.
Australia's gap is growing all the time. They are, on average, the fastest boat on the course, although that's not...
Oh, they're off the foils, Emily. They've fallen off the foils. They said it's a bit light here. They're out of breeze. This is going to be a huge opportunity. Look at the ride height. They're only 12 centimetres above the water. They're off the foils. The lead's coming down all the time here. They're back up to speed. Heart in the mouth moment for Australians here. It could be control back to the British. When they turn, Great Britain will have the right of way. Tom Slingsby will need to be confident that he's clear ahead as we approach gate 3.
And that mistake cost the Australians half their lead. It was 200 meters. It's now down to 100 meters. There you see the Australians at the top of your screen. Great Britain at the bottom.
We just don't see mistakes. That's pressure, Todd, right there. But it's a good recovery, and it sounded calm on board the Australians. Expect to see the Australians turn directly in front of Ainsley again to try and get control of this race again. He was stretching away. It was looking easy for a moment. Wow, good recovery by Australia, but it shows us one mistake and this final could flip on its head.
The Prix inside, lifting, taking the height quickly here. We're going to go right turn. You could... Okay.
Interesting. Slingsby on board there said he wants to take right turn. He's happy to do another manoeuvre. There just seems to be less wind right now in towards San Francisco shoreline. Australia fell off the foils, lost a lot of distance. He knows Ainsley's going to take the right turn because he can't make it in one. So again, he keeps himself in the same patch of water as Emirates GBR by taking this right turn. So an extra manoeuvre, but an awful lot more control for the Australian boat right now.
So the Australians are around safely, and they've got a nice lead. And now look at the speed on the top of the mast, coming up on 64 kilometers an hour in first place.
Todd, with 2 long legs and a short sprint to the finish away from $1 million. How's your heart rate on board that Australian boat right now?
The lead now back up to 200 meters, and New Zealand opts to go inshore.
Here we go. We're going to go on board Australia here and listen in. What's in Slingsby's mind right now?
GBR set up.
High rate, moving hard. Okay, cutting into pressure and fires here, guys. Let's just smooth it out.
They follow, they're on our line.
Voice of Tash Bryant at the back there, talking about where the British are. They're on our line. That's just what you dream of hearing as the tactician and driver in Tom Slingsby. They just follow me here. I then can just trust Kyle Langford as the wing trimmer, trust Jason Waterhouse, the flight controller. I know they're the best in the business. I know they can keep the boat going as fast as these others. So at the moment, it's just a case of trying to keep this Australian boat lined up with Great Britain, and it's a team job.
Quite lifted here. That's max lift we've seen all day.
120.
Let's stand by.
This is leg 4 of 6, the grand final here in San Francisco, and it's the 2-time reigning and defending champions out in front. But look at this, the Kiwis have now moved into second place ahead of Great Britain.
Big gain. They found more wind in by the shore. It hadn't been there before, but Burling spotted it, and he's now back within 100 metres.
And that's the summary from that previous leg. The Australians really on form. Even with that touchdown close to the shore, they still had the highest average speed and sailed less distance. You can't get better than that.
No, that's what you want right there. In Emirates Great Britain, they've dropped off. The Kiwis are fast, some 7 kilometres an hour faster than the Australians, but crucially, still 100 metres behind, and all the boats are going to look well lined up for a right turn. And if everyone follows Australia, that'll be good news for the Australians. What trick has Pete Burling got left up his sleeve to try and drag a rabbit from a hat at the end of this final here?
Still work to do here on leg number 4. They'll be around this next gate, then to the top of the course. And as Stevie pointed out, a quick sprint to the finish line and the $1 million prize. It's the 2-time defending champions out in front. New Zealand, though, have found speed late. Look at that. They're going 60 kilometers an hour. Just almost even with the Australians. Can they reel them in, Stevie? This may come down to one final mistake.
Well, if anyone makes a mistake, that's going to be it. But the crucial move here is Burling is taking the left turn at the bottom. He maybe thinks he's seen more wind the other way. This is really probably his only move, to split the course, hope he gets more wind. If he finds more wind, he'll be faster. Just 9 seconds needed to claw back on this fine upwind leg, and it's now a strategist game. Who's found more wind? Slingsby, quick to turn the boat, trying to get himself back over and closer to the New Zealand boat. and it's going to be all about who's read the wind best at this stage.
Yeah, let's get it going.
Low drag position on board Australia then.
It's going to lift here, slingers. Yeah, no, I got it.
So there we just heard from Carl Langford it's going to lift. That's great news for them. That means the wind's going to turn to the left and start to bring them more directly up the ladder line. Great news. Should be a gain, showing us a gain at the moment, and expect a bit of a repeat, Todd, of what we saw on the last upwind.
So, Stevie, is this the case of Australia and Tom Slimsby? They're going to match whatever the Kiwis are doing in Peter Burling?
Yeah, I think so. Look, off the foils, Great Britain. There just seems to be less wind in by the shore. It's easy to fall off the foil. There we go. Straight lines himself up with Burling. Burling's got to manoeuvre soon to try and keep this race alive. You've got to move. As soon as the Australians move, Burling needs to move and try and get a mistake out of the Australians. Every time you manoeuvre, there's a potential. Here we go. The Kiwis turn one more time. What does Australia do here?
Continuing a little.
I wouldn't be going too far towards San Francisco shoreline now. You've got to be a manoeuvre for Australia soon here.
Building. Or down.
Speed still good on for Australia at 53 kilometers an hour. Similar for New Zealand. The lead now 100 meters as they get ready to make the left-hand turn at the next gate at mark number 5, and then it'll be the sprint to the finish line.
Crucially, the Australians stayed on their foil in that manoeuvre. That was where they fell off their foil last time. They've stayed foiling. That doesn't give much of an opportunity yet. Still 100 metres in it. Still the New Zealand boat needs to throw manoeuvres at Australia and try and make another mistake on that Australian boat, or it's going to be the three-peat. There's only a few hundred metres to go here, Todd.
And that lead is growing from Australia. Over 100 metres lead now.
Let's stand by there, feed the build on.
Here we go, 600 metres of this upwind, leg left to mark 5. Then that short sprint to the finish. The race is getting closer, but Slingsby's not willing to give Burling any space. Again, lines himself up parallel. It's now just a question of boat speed, and we know the Australian boat's fast. What's Burling got up his sleeve? Surely one more manoeuvre from the Kiwis.
Got to get it going here. Head down, slingers, big transition coming. Yeah. Yeah, we're losing big time here. Just got to get that boat going.
Big transition coming. What he means by that is there's a change in the wind speed. There's a big change coming. We've got to re-accelerate the boat. And look, they have. Top of the mast, matching boat speeds. 2 more manoeuvres for all the crews here. New Zealand make it first. Australia will go straight in front of him. It's all about whether anyone makes a mistake now, Todd. This is Australia's to lose.
Great Britain out of the picture there, 200 meters behind the Kiwis in second place. And look at this, Australia puts it down.
Oh, he's got to stay above 30. Oh my Lord, he's off the foils. This has given New Zealand a chance. He's going to have to turn again, and he's going to be slow when he turns. Advantage New Zealand here. This could go to the wire, Todd. Australia have got to keep clear here. New Zealand stay on the foils. What do Australia do? They're going to struggle to stay foiling on board Australia. On the inside, it's New Zealand. New Zealand, if they can get over that. Wow, no. Slingsby holds on. He leads at mark 5.
First to the circle, and Australia has priority, and the Kiwis, and now it is an absolute drag race for $1 million. The 2-time reigning and defending champions, they can see the finish line. The checkered flag is there. The Kiwis are going to run out of water. The Australian dynasty is still intact, and the three-peat is now complete.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
Gotta jive! Gotta jive!
I mean, Tom, oh my word, what? I thought he'd blown it. How they pulled off that second manoeuvre into the final mark 5 at such a low speed and get straight back on the foils. Oh, I thought somehow Burling had pulled it out of the hat. What a race for the $1 million. That pretty much had it all, but you've got to say, the best team over the season has won, and I think there's a certain fairness in that.
Absolutely, Tom Slingsby saved his most clutch moment for the last 30 seconds of this race, because, Emily, it looked like Australia, when they put it down, it was done, because New Zealand is coming on them strong, and he gets it back up.
I know, and after New Zealand's weekend, you know, they've underperformed, and then all of a sudden, last moment, it brought it out of the bag, but just didn't quite manage it.
Oh, what a performance. Tom Slingsby